This is the BMW 2 Series Gran Coupe. Not something I ever really thought about saying, Gran Coupe, for a 2 Series, based on a 1 Series, which is a kind of unusual place to be because it's a 1 Series saloon. So kind of similar to an Audi A3, but smaller, or similar to a Mercedes CLA, but maybe a little bit smaller as well. But let's have a look and see what we make of this brand new car from BMW. Okay, let's have a quick tour around with our Sony cam. So looking at the front of the car, when you see it, it's got that big grille across the middle. No camera here in the middle like you see in some of the BMWs, the higher end ones. And what they've done is sort of a teardrop. They've dropped this down here, made a sort of a line in it to differentiate how it works. It's been raining all day, it's the first time we've had it. And again, the kind of bonnet line being halfway up here for insurance, making this plastic. See, this is plastic these days, so when it hits a pedestrian, it doesn't do any damage. Or if you damage the front, hit something, you just replace this bit, not the bonnet. Bonnet's the expensive part of a car. Moving on the side, and if I pull back a bit, let's be serious. Those wheels are not big enough for those wheel arches, right? They're just not. Hands up, leave a comment if you agree. They just look too small. I can see too much of the wheel arch in the back. The side has that coupe look down along it. You do fit in the back of this, don't worry, as a tall man like me. And around the back is the controversial end of the car, which is where people don't either like it or don't like it. I wouldn't be a big fan. I think it's an odd looking car on the back. Moving on to the interior for a second, my bag is in the back here as you can see. But there is space in here, you do fit, I don't hit the roof or anything. And then in the front, same again, looks lovely. It's very pretty, very small. Okay, quick look under the bonnet. As you can see, this is twin power turbo, it says here. But actually it's a 1.5 litre petrol turbo. Okay, so it's 1.5 litre, nothing terribly special about it. Very overly complicated way of opening the bonnet, isn't it? Look at all this. That's like, to be sure. So nothing terribly efficient to look at or terribly interesting to look at under the bonnet. It's all covered in plastic these days, a BMW twin power turbo in it. And the bonnet, as you can see, the bonnet shape is actually quite small. Honestly, if I was buying a car to work on it, can you even see an air filter or an oil filter or cabin filters around? There's the belts, there's the air filter. That's about it really. Anyway, I'm going to drive. So I'll use the little Sony cam to show you up close what I'm talking about. You can see here it's just a sort of a swash of black things. What I really do like is the wireless charging tray, which is down here. So just forget the wires from it, which there is a USB port here for, right? But the wireless charging tray allows you to be able to put a phone in here, so it charges, you can see straight away. Shut up, Siri. It charges straight away here, but if you were driving, you'd be reluctant to reach down for that because it's right there, you'd have to drag it out and pull it up and show it to yourself. This is our command system here in the middle, which as you can see attracts every piece of dust for 100 miles. But I do have EcoPro Comfort Sport, a 7-speed DSG box. Then of course this here is my twisty knob to run the command center as well. But this does have Apple CarPlay. That is a touchscreen. So if I hold up my camera here, press that, you can see it is actually a touchscreen. It works perfectly well. I've also turned up the wireless Apple CarPlay has appeared here, so you can see it there straight away. It's gone in and I'm playing Infinite Monkey Cage, Does Time Exist? Now, I will point out that there's a huge block of the black part here that is unused. Do you see that? Look at that. Why is that unused? You should spread that out. Make it full screen, BMW. What's wrong with that? Anyway, it is wireless Apple CarPlay, works perfectly well. A quick look at the dashboard in the center here, you can see it is digital, but it's very mechanically looking. You know what I mean? This is digital, this bit here, or looks digital. It is digital, yeah. but it's mechanical looking. I quite like that. That's very nice. It's a very nice dashboard. That's much nicer than your other new one in the 3 Series. You can have it in this as well in the higher spec. The M Sport one has another digital dash in it. But that one is actually quite nice. Anyway, that's it. It's pretty basic up here. It's pretty straightforward. Really does work. Active buttons for this is physical buttons for the air conditioning. And we have physical buttons for the radio, which now looks outdated. I just really need that knob, actually, to be honest with you. That's pretty much it. Looking on the other side of the dashboard over here, we do have a glove box, more of a shelf than a box. And then in the center here, we have another box with a USB port inside, which is USB-C. Seats are quite comfy, and the steering wheel is very nice, as per usual from BMW. They are still currently just creeping along the king of steering wheels. I quite like that. Let's have a look at the back seat before we go any further. Now this is where I think the Gran Coupe starts to fall apart for me, because this door isn't very wide. That space, that bit there, is all a bit I have to get through. Look, I really am slithering in. And then when I'm in, it's okay. There's a bit of room between me and the seat in front of me. It's not terrible. I have 2 USB-C ports here and a couple of vents as well. Nothing really essential. The seat does have an armrest in the middle with a very overly complicated, this is terribly overcomplicated cup holder. I don't know why it's so complicated. The seats do fold down, but like you can fold them down if you want to put more stuff in the boot, but the boot is like 450 litres. It's pretty big as it is, so you don't really need to fold them down. ISOFIX is here as well. You will barely fit someone into the middle row. There is a transmission tunnel in the centre. This big raised patch, which is kind of awkward for your feet, but it is there. It's okay. It's small though. The door is actually quite big in comparison to the rest of the door, and they are frameless doors, so there's no thing over the top. So the window's quite big, but the door itself is actually quite small, and it's quite hard to get in and out of the car. Look at the boot. So arguably the most controversial part of the car is the back. You're either going to like that or hate that. And I'm on the hate side of that. I just don't like the look of it. I think it's a weird look, and I think the extended light and that sort of boomerang round the corner looking thing is odd. Anyway, looking at the boot itself, it's just a big space. As you can see, I have a fold-up bike in here, and it fits in there. It's about 450 litres. You can make this fold back out of the way. There is more storage underneath. So it's actually quite a big, useful space. Although, again, this space here does make it quite narrow. So it's not like a hatchback. Anyway, let's go for a spin and see what we think of this new machine. So BMW's engine in this is the 1.5 litre petrol. Now, we've seen this engine before from BMW. I believe is the same setup engine that was used in the BMW i8 as well, connected to a hybrid system. Now, this 1.5 it's not bad. I won't say it's terrible engine. It's all right for a petrol engine, and it's pretty good fuel economy until you get out in the motorway. Then it starts to eat the fuel on you, but that's par for the course, unfortunately, with a petrol engine. You can see it's a miserable grey day now at the moment. It's rough. The gearbox is, however, gorgeous. Very, very nice gear changes. It whips through those gears very nicely, even when you click it over into sort of S mode. There is 7 speeds in the gearbox, and it's just very, very nice. There's no complaint at all. It's so smooth. It blips up and down through the gears. You do catch it out every once in a while, particularly sitting, because it seems to stop start. It seems to disengage the gearbox as well. And so when you're sitting there at a roundabout or traffic lights and the stop start engages, there's a noticeable jerk as the car tries to re-engage the gears to get you to move again. Might be able to demonstrate it here. There's a truck coming. Hold up a second. Right, so we go into stop start mode. There it is on ready now. So I'm ready. It's ready. And I go. Then there's a noticeable sort of wild jerk as it blips into the right gear for you. I'm going on into Newbridge here just because I want to see the town response to the car. Now, the dash, the layout, the stuff in here, well, that's all pretty much par for the course when it comes to this kind of car. It's no better, no worse than what Mercedes or Audi are doing. My favourite car in this range is probably the Audi A1 City Carver. It's not in this range, by the way, this is the 2 Series, but size-wise, I kind of like that hatchback look. So these Gran Coupes don't necessarily make a lot of sense in my brain, because unless you particularly want a saloon, a 5-door hatchback does a far better job in this size. Okay, so at this size of car, there's no reason to have a saloon other than the look. The car does feel very nice as you're driving along. You feel cosseted from the outside world. The damping is pretty good in the suspension. The tire and wheel combination make it quite a gentle ride as you drive along. So there's a lot in that. But the problem is it kind of spoils the outside look, as the wheel doesn't seem to fill the arch properly. It's like a child's drawing of a car. They draw a car and they draw a wheel in the arch rather than filling the arch out. It's an unusual sort of look to the car. Newbridge, can I point out, has been a bottleneck of traffic since I was a child, right? Since I lived in Kildare, this town has always been a nightmare to get through. But now, even when the traffic is quite light, which it's not particularly heavy right now, there's very little tailbacks or anything, it's still really slow to pass through the town because of so many traffic lights. So on a side note, traffic lights are designed to stem the flow of traffic. So you're slowing people down further back to make the traffic through the town move quicker. What traffic lights don't do well is divert traffic. So they don't do well at sending traffic in different directions. That's what a roundabout does. That's why Portlaoise can handle as much traffic as Newbridge, but it all passes through very quickly because we just have roundabouts. We don't really have any traffic lights. It's like two opposite towns. Now Newbridge is quite a busy town. It's busier than Portlaoise, obviously, but still, there's just too many traffic lights in Newbridge. You've too many. You've got too much going on. There's too much street furniture. There really is. It's just bloody everywhere, Now, this car at slow speeds, I can feel it jerking. It's a combination of that 1.5 litre engine trying to save as much fuel as it can, and that gearbox trying to blip through gears because it's got 7 choices to make. So it doesn't know whether it wants to be in first or second at very low RPMs. You don't feel the gear change so much as you feel the hesitancy for the car to decide what gear to be in. So when you're driving around a town, if all you feel is right now that feeling of jerking, it's not the kangarooing that Volkswagen had a problem with. It's a different thing. It's different. It feels like the car's not firing fuel into the cylinders properly. It feels like it's not burning the fuel properly as it shuts down cylinders, tries to decide what gear it's in, tries to give as much horsepower, little horsepower, throttle response, how far is the throttle down. All these decisions seem to be happening at once, and it's resulting in the car hesitating as to what gear it's going to give you next and how much fuel it's going to put into the cylinders. While there's nothing I dislike about the car, there's nothing I particularly can point a finger at and go, no, that's terrible. It still fails to kind of engage. It doesn't seem to have a life. The front wheel drive is okay. The gearbox is very good. The engine is okay. The fuel economy is in the middle. It feels like a sort of a middle of the road designed by a democratic process and checked over by a panel of individuals who are accountants or something. It just feels like it's designed by that group of people at the bus stop. They all had a little bit of input, and everybody's ideas were harvested and looked at and put into the car, and you've ended up with this sort of mishmash of cars. It's a saloon, but it's a 2 Series. There's an active tourer over there, which is a great car from BMW. Brilliant car. It's the same. It's a 2 Series active tourer. It's the same car. It's a far better car. It doesn't feel like it was done by democracy at all. It feels like it was made by a designer. This one feels like a pile of accountants and people got together and sort of put the car together in a way that doesn't really engage the driver in anything. Doesn't really make me want to drive. Does nothing wrong. Does nothing really good either. So would I buy one? Don't know. 38 grand. 35, 38 grand is kind of where this car lives. It ain't cheap. It feels like a BMW, it really does. It just feels like BMW is not quite sure what they meant to do with this. That's kind of what it feels like. And in a weird sort of way, it's like, yeah, let's make a Gran Coupe of the 2 Series. Right, let's do that. And then they go, you sure you want to do this? You really want to make it saloon? Maybe you should leave it as a sort of a hatchback. Or, let's not put a really big boot in it. It's hard to say. Mercedes do a really good version of CLA and CLS, the CLA car. The saloon version of that, you feel a little bit special, but again, you pay the price. You pay the price for that feeling special. There's such good value in the 5-door hatchback and estate market in this kind of range that I don't see why you would particularly want to pay the excess for a BMW 2 Series Gran Coupe. Right, well, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching on this grey, miserable, horrible day that Ireland tends to put out every once in a while. Hopefully the sun will return for some day over this week, because I'm quite sick of this grey weather. It really is quite hard to deal with and operate in when we're still on sort of semi-lockdown and things are still happening in that respect. I'm supposed to be making more videos with another YouTuber today, but this weather is going to really screw that up. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you've subscribed by now. There is a subscribe button down below. There's also a set of support buttons. If you want to support the channel, it'd be absolutely brilliant. There's a Patreon account there as well. I'd really love it if you supported me on Patreon, because it's been a huge support, allowed me to buy a pile of new equipment, and I really am after new cameras, and you have to continue to upgrade and stuff on YouTube. It has to be done. So if you can support that in some way, it'd be absolutely brilliant. There is a PayPal link if you want to do just a single sort of donation for something. Or you can do an ongoing feature on Patreon or on memberships here on YouTube as well. Thank you very much for watching. And until the next time, I will see you on the far side.